I will go over the projects as presented. If you guys want to talk more detail, I would encourage the chiefs to come up here, give some feedback, if you have any questions. This is really a lot of their requests, and then we've worked with Jacobs to try to price out the things the best we can. I don't want to, so this is some rankings like we talked about with the other things, some things that we've ranked with the chiefs, the departments, and then just based off some matrix studies we've done about prioritization. So we tried to rank this a little bit in what we think is priorities, but again, that's all up for debate and it can be changed as needed. One of the things that's ranked the highest and is at the top is our defense siren system, just because of the life safety aspect that's tied to it. This would include two different aspects. The primary one being adding new sirens and replacing all the old ones. As part of the, I'm going to have the numbers wrong, but as part of the 2018 general obligation bond, I believe we replaced or added new around 20 sirens. I think we have somewhere around 40 some odd in the whole system. And so the anticipation is that this bond would go ahead and replace all the others that were not replaced in the 2018 general obligation bond. What that does for us is it gives us a full, newly modern system. The old sirens were the spinning ones, the loudspeakers that are spinning. The new ones are 360-degree omnidirectional. They're always making noise in all directions. But the nice thing is they have more modern equipment technology inside of them. And so the second part of this project would be to encrypt all of our sirens. As you guys know, we've had issues with people coming in to the encryptions. Right now they're on radio waves, so to speak. So we would add an encryption system onto them that makes it to where they are not accessible as easily.
I did meet with Jamie this week on our tornado sirens, and you're correct. They'll all be updated to our whole city.
Yep.
And we'll have some pretty good coverage. Of course, our city's growing too, so I'm sure he'll come back to us at some other point later on once we start growing more in Wagner County to cover that. And I think that encryption piece is highly important.
Absolutely.
So I guess I don't really know it sounds like we're going to, so 11, 14, or 4, so probably option 2 is what I would.
Yeah, right now we're showing, as we went through the book, we've shown a lot of options just to show how we can change projects for prices and stuff like this. But I think we always anticipated the cost of this project relative to other projects is low, and the impact's pretty significant. So I think we've always anticipated we'd do the full replacement. The systems relative to other projects are not super expensive. I think we paid around $16,000 to $18,000 per unit for the 2018 general obligation bond. I think we're only anticipating probably in the $25,000 range by the time we get to the next set per unit. So for $1 million, $1.5 million, I think we can completely take care of our system all across the city.
Yeah, I like it.
The parts I don't want to butcher, and I would encourage y'all, if you have any questions, Chief Moore come down and maybe give more input. But radio equipment for first responders, this is to the system. I think there's a lot of this to the Harris radio system, just to expand our coverage. I know, and as we've gone through the steering committee talking, we actually also partner with the school system and some other entities. So this kind of has a dual purpose benefit to a lot of people, but it is for our people, expanding our network. Truck replacement, fire truck replacement is, that includes numbers for replacement of our entire fleet over a 10-year period. So every truck, my understanding is every truck in the fleet over the 10-year bond would be replaced through this if we funded the entire number. And then finally, they're self-contained breathing apparatuses, expensive items that need to be replaced. So we'd be doing replacement of those.
I do have a question on the radio communication and the upgrade. So I know we have a few areas in our city that our radios were not getting out. Will that take care of that issue? They're double teaming.
So the key part about this is the core of our radio network. We do have a lot of partners, as Charlie has said, that participate on it. We actually have the second largest radio network in the state of Oklahoma. The biggest part of this is actually replacing our core technology. all of the radio network runs on technology, and it's getting fairly dated. So the biggest part of this is that aspect of it. We have redundancy built all across our area, which stretches across into other counties and throughout the city. There's probably only limited reception in places where there are valleys, but part of this is extending some of the redundancy of our network for that as well.
My main concern is just officer and firefighter safety, is to make sure no matter where our officers are in our city, they're going to be able to get out on the radio.
It's not exactly a reception problem in terms of the network. The issues that we had with radio operations, there was a couple instances on the fire side, were actually more on a user error issue, not so much on the network. But I'll let Chief Lance speak to it.
One of the biggest gaps that you may remember, Councilor Ford, is South BA, and this body did approve the design for the tower in South BA from a previous bond issue. So that is our largest gap area right now. That work is already underway for that particular project. The other things, some of the things that you mentioned, the limitations now are sometimes due to the density of buildings in that area. Simple code changes can impact that. So where some of these larger, if we bring in larger manufacturing and that kind of stuff, if we don't already, we can actually have things that will strengthen those signals inside those buildings, specifically for fire operations. But
Okay. Thank you.
I'm glad Chief Arnold touched on it, but that's what I was going to follow up with. Is the 2014 general obligation bond included a new radio tower in South Broken Arrow. That project's gone through several changes based off what previous directors and administrators wanted, and currently I think we finalized on what that project's going to be, which is going to be to take care of the problem specifically that you're addressing in South Broken Arrow. Currently we're looking at an area around Jasper and Aspen Street, in that area where the new tower will be located, and the main purpose of the tower will be to solve that coverage issue.
Thank you.
So next project that was proposed by the police department is expansion of the animal shelter. As Chief Arnold has told me, and I agree with completely, as the city grows, the number of animals grow. You know, I believe they already do have some capacity issues, but so the goal would be to add kennels to the animal shelter so we can handle more animals, and then also to create like a Sally Port entryway area and maybe some new Gynnequated roofs and stuff like that. Ultimately, be able to get more animals in, and then hopefully help to be able to get more animals out for adoption. Yeah, I was gonna say, I also believe that this was, part of this goal was gonna be to make sure that this facility is covered by a generator, which is obviously important when power goes out. You know, we have a lot of animals left in there that we can't leave either in the heat or cold. Fire stations. So, as you guys know, we've recently, as part of the last couple of bonds, replaced Fire Station 3 and 7. This bond would propose a replacement of Fire Station 1. Fire Station 1 is currently located at the end of Main Street on Kenosha. I believe it's our oldest fire station. Chief Moore could probably confirm. It is. So I believe it's our oldest fire station, and as part of the replacement, it's not just about the age, it's about, part of it's going to be about the relocation. Based off the work that Chief Moore's team's done, he has shared and done their response time issues, showing our lowest response times in the city are in the northwest portion of the town, of the city. And so I think the goal of a replacement of Fire Station 1 would be not only to get a new facility because of the age of this one, but it'd also be to relocate it to that more northwest corner of the town. The exact land has not been identified, but we know that would be the goal, is to shorten our response times in the northwest. Part of that you're able to do is because we've slowly covered the area that Fire Station 1 is in today by building Fire Station 7 where it's located, and then by having the one out at Nienhuis that's there and the one over on Houston Street's there. We're kind of covering it in all directions, and that northwest portion is the portion that's most open now. Moving on to probably part of the bigger one is the training center. As Norm Stevens encouraged and the chiefs worked together with my team over the last year. We created a master plan that was adopted by council, suggesting improvements long-term that would like to be seen at the training facility. The master plan again, and the chief has said this several times, this isn't a today or tomorrow thing. This is a 20, 30, 40 year type item. But the goal would be to start tackling some of these pieces in the bond. And I think we're identifying the pieces that the chiefs have asked for. The top one is really just roads and drainage. As you guys know, the area already goes through a floodplain. Some of that we're trying to address before this bond, but some of it will have to be probably addressed in the bond as well, with just bridge box structures, culverts to get over that channel. There's a lot of water that comes through that channel. It's a floodplain currently. We're trying to do some things to lower that water elevation and get the water out of there faster. One of the things that we've heard from both the departments regularly is more classroom space. I guess when they do their training, they have trouble being, one department's filled up. It's hard for the other department to find space at any given time just because the need is there. So they've both hit as one of their priorities as to get more classroom space. The goal, I think, of that is currently they have the front building and then a corridor in the back building. I think the goal would be to fill in those two buildings all in with enclosed area and create that classroom space there in the middle.
So would that be kind of divided up, like half, the police will get half of the building and the fire will get the other half of the building, kind of like it is now?
I would let them comment on that if they would like to. I don't know if we've talked about specifics of who would have what.
Well, that's what I was just wondering, is who has the most needs for the
It could
bus?
be day to day, one day.
Well, or is it gonna be like a multi-use? Yeah, like you just, whatever's open, whoever needs it and it's open and it's available. Okay, that's
That's the
good.
way it is. And that's really kind of counts for how we do the training center now. Obviously, when the police academy is not in session, we have the tiered classroom there. Fire academy or fire training, anybody, including our other city departments, are able to use that space. We reserve that space across the city, but specifically within our two departments. It's quite a bit of classroom space that also can be divided by that current flat classroom that we have. Similar to that, and just visiting with Chief Moore, we would use it together. We would plan it out and schedule it, and it'd be available for both departments. So.
I
As
know
well
we've-
as other city departments.
Yeah, and I know, and this may be a question for you, Charlie. I know we've had issues with that building, with the original building before, needing piers and such. Or do you have any concern about
Yeah,
adding
so-
another building?
We've talked about this several times. I mean, it's an ongoing issue. Obviously, I believe we took this land in for free. Kenny, correct me?
I don't know if it was for free, but it was a landfill area, trash.
Either
yes.
for free or cheap, because it was a landfill before, and we made the use out of it. I know at one point in time, we looked at the feasibility of, do you just move this whole thing to another location because of the land situation? And ultimately, we determined the price of a new location and just replacing the infrastructure you had today would far exceed the price of just building improvements based off the soil that we have here. So it made the most sense to stay here from a dollars perspective. Yeah, there's gonna be extra challenges due to the soil. The soil's gonna settle, and that probably means you are drilling piers down to bedrock when you build structures. But that sounds scary in a sense, and yes, it's more work, but we're not talking millions of dollars. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So, instead of building a building, instead of putting a spread footing and a concrete footing and a slab down, now we might have to bring in a pier truck, drill a pier, hit bedrock, fill it with concrete, and then we put our foundation on top of it.
I guess that was kind of the way that's what I was wondering. Do we
Yeah.
just wait for it to fail, or can we do some prevention stuff in the
No,
building of it?
we'd absolutely look to address it on the front end. So next item that was pretty high priority, I actually appreciate, is kind of gated access control, and then I think that'll tie to the later one of more ornamental fencing. Really, three of these go together. So you got ornamental fencing, gate access control, and then the secure perimeter. Today, the site's not secure. I have been told, I'm not out there, but I've been told we have issues of kids, whoever, getting onto the site from the back, playing in it. They found people playing on the gun range before and everything else because it's just not a secure area. So one of the goals would be to secure the entire site, and then maybe spend a little bit more money on the front end to make the site look nice inviting, more decorative on the front, and then getting electronic access control for our public safety vehicles and staff that need to be in the area. So you have a way to get gated access in and out, but keep out the public that does not need to be in there. So the left side of the screen here that you see that was recommended in the master plan was kind of a burn building training area, facility area. The goal being to imitate various parts of the city of Broken Arrow for training purposes. You know, one block may imitate a block of the Rose District. One block may imitate apartment complexes. One block may imitate a typical residential single-family home little block. And my understanding is the departments would use that for dual training. You know, police can use it on how you would tactically approach an area, strategize everything else, and then every one of the buildings would be a burn building that the fire department could catch on fire, work on training on how they would handle that. So that's the long-term vision and picture. That's not what they're asking for here today. I think in this bond right now we're recommending two of the burn buildings to be built. I don't know if Chief Moore has identified which two would be the specific ones, but the idea being two of the type of buildings that they fight the most regular fires. I will say from a cost perspective, it's like it sounds expensive to emulate building a city block, but we're not building it to the standards of the city block. It would be cinder block walls and everything else that are just in the shape of what the city would be, you know. Everything would be destructible and burnable and all that kind of stuff, so.
Well, I like that the police and fire both can train with the same building.
Yep. So that'd be the idea, is to kind of create city structures or blocks that emulate the real world conditions that they would be in. And for this particular bond right now, we're currently proposing two of those buildings being built. I would, if Chief Moore wishes, he can maybe tell which ones he would want to go into. And he says he's good. So, okay. Moving on is storage facility and outdoor classroom space for the fire department. So the fire department does a lot of their training on the west side of the creek currently, and I think it's kind of the way it looks like, because they use the west side, police use the majority of the east, and they have some shared spaces. I understand as they have their burn tower on the west and all their activities happen on the west, they then have to lug their gear, equipment, everything else back to the east to get to restrooms, classroom space, storage area for their equipment. So the idea would be to create more storage area and outdoor training area on the west side for where they can put their gear for the academy, everything else. Probably put some restrooms over there on that side, so there's not a constant need to be walking back and forth across the entire facility.
From my experience, firefighters like to work out anyway, so
Yeah.
be all right.
I have no opinion.
Don't put the bridge in, they can just swim across the creek and do all the exercises, do their workout that way.
Dual purpose.
And then ultimately just adding some signage, monumental signage or something in the front. This kind of goes with the fencing at the bottom. Doing a little bit to spruce up the face of the whole place, make it look more professional, make it look matching of the community that we represent. You know, just make it more of a high-end place that is welcoming, not welcoming, but pleasant to the public.
Not too welcoming.
Yeah,
Not too
not trying to
welcoming,
welcome
okay.
everybody, but looks professional.
Presentable.
We certainly don't want any kids out there playing.
Absolutely. Want to be very unwelcoming to them.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, if I may add real quick, one of the things when we started talking about this, though, is Broken Arrow, and we do it in several different areas, we've kind of grown to a point that we can do for the smaller ones around us what was done for us. And, you know, when I first started, and it's my hope that as this does over the next 10, 20, 30 years, that it will be turned into a regional training facility to help the smaller agencies.
Are you saying we've come a long way since that little storage shed we used to train in
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
with a window unit for air conditioning?
Yes.
So moving from their training facility to where they're headquartered at in the public safety complex, I'll start with current projects, 2018 general obligation bond. The building that you see on the north end that's not highlighted, the annex building, you all recently approved a construction contract to remodel that facility. That is technically under the fire department. The EMS will be coming out of that building and some other improvements. And so they've asked for some more improvements on that site in general. The first one being a vehicle storage facility that'd be on the north end. This is for, I believe, the tactical type vehicles for the police, the mobile command center, and other equipment they have. Ultimately, very expensive equipment that we want to keep out of the weather. And so it's not deteriorating faster than it needs to be. Currently, and that ties to the second part of this, currently they are storing those facilities inside the main building. They got some overhead doors in there, and they're pulling those vehicles into the main building. But going to the second part of this, they are at capacity in that building. They're kind of bursting at the seams in all directions. They would like to get those vehicles out of the building so they can remodel that space and make more usable space for their headquarters. So first part of the ask is a vehicle storage building, and then remodeling the space that the vehicle is currently sitting in. The second part of the ask is to potentially remodel the entire facility. I will say from a building perspective, and as they will say, if you're in that facility, it is very inefficient use of space. And the reason being for that is you have very large corridors, very large rooms in some area, and that's because of the way the building was laid out for its purposes before. I don't remember who had it. Was it the guard?
The armory.
Yeah.
It was an armory.
So the way they were utilizing it before didn't completely match with how we're going to obviously utilize it today. And so it created some inefficiencies in how the space is used. We've done an excellent job, but now they're bursting at the seams. And so the question is, can we do things to make that space more efficient, get more people, more use out of it? It's not an easy thing because the same challenges they had before. You have load-bearing walls that are in the way, which created those inefficiencies. So the project would be a little bit more expensive because we would have to tackle some of those harder issues to make sure we could remodel it to be more efficient with the space available. I believe it's the last one, but the next request was for the first fire station that we talked about was a replacement and relocation of Fire Station 1. This would be for a brand new fire station, Fire Station 9. This is, no location has been identified. This would be anticipated to be somewhere on the east side of town as we grow and our services have grown to the east, and the services that we're offering. And so it's not something to be anticipated in the first few years, but maybe something towards the back end of the bond as the city continues to grow east for us to provide services to the east. No locations have specifically been identified at this time.
So that's 2 fire stations on this bond, is that correct?
That's what's being shown currently. And then that is the end of public safety, but there's, happy to talk about anything else you guys want, or if you have any questions, I'm sure the chiefs would be welcome to come, happy to talk about it as well.
I would say that, on an airplane, if they sit for 2 hours, they have you get up and walk around. Some of you drink tea for lunch, I know. So I'd like to declare a 5-minute recess. Those of you need to walk around.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor, we actually have a 15-minute break scheduled.
15?
Yes.
He's like, well, it's gotta be 5 because we're.
Sorry, I didn't know that. Mine was an emergency 5.